Hi, this is Otto Lee. I'm very honored to have an opportunity today to speak with a wonderful friend of ours. Her name is Claudia Rossi. Claudia has true public servant in serving our community in so many ways. She's a registered nurse serving us in the South County, her big role is that she's been elected to serve on the Santa Clara County Board of Education, and she is most recently elected to be serving as the president of the board of our county education, all for helping our kids for the entire county. So I would like to invite Claudia. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time today to join us, and really pleasure to speak with you. So getting started, I just want to say, how are you doing in this COVID-19 environment, and how are you surviving? With your
Thank
daily.
you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for the opportunity to connect in this way. I think like everybody else, the first concern is around remaining healthy for our families, remaining healthy for our larger community to continue to serve, and remaining healthy so that we could contribute our whatever it is that we do to our brothers and sisters. So right now, everything that I do as a mother, as a nurse, is hopefully to promote health and to make sure that as much as we can in everything that we do, we keep the focus on remaining together to address, I think, the inequities that have come to light. This crisis, I think, has really served to put a spotlight on the gaps that we have in our community that I think urgently need to be addressed. And so, like everyone else, the new reality, I know you have children at home that are schooling at home. So I also wanted to ask you, how is that going for you?
Yes, as we being in Silicon Valley, being the heart of this technological center of the world, uh,
Mhm.
the need of technology is clearly shown. For example, like we are here going through this meeting through Zoom technology.
Mhm.
Also, our kids now are going to class using Google Meetings. They
Yes.
the Chromebooks, and this is how classes are conducted in their own space with the laptop. And this is something which shows the need of internet access, broadband are so crucial and critical. It's not a luxury, it's absolutely a necessity. And it's a utility that really something that should be available to all of our children in order for them to learn.
And I have to say, Otto, that I am particularly grateful to you because you have been intentionally reaching out to educators, to community leaders, to activists, to advocates, and your interest in learning and hearing about what challenges we're facing. And you're reaching out to me. I live in South County. I work in South County. I represent South County. To me, it's a very wonderful thing because you are always interested in reaching out and finding out, what do you need? What can we do together? And I am really excited about the continued work that we will have from my perspective as a board of education a trustee, and then looking ahead to the importance of making sure that we work more closely as me on the board of education and you when you are elected to board of supervisors, because there's a lot of overlap there
Yes.
that we could talk about. I think you mentioned access to the internet and you use the word utility. And I
Mhm.
love that you did that, because when we think of utilities and basics, we think about the gas,
The
the,
water,
the
electricity,
electricity, right?
right?
And so if we learn anything from this experience, is that access to the internet is access to information, to education, and it's a way that we remain connected.
Right. And you mentioned the challenges of the Latino community, especially in this tough times, and the immigrant community that we clearly are seeing is very serious, because in some ways people say that, you know what, we are in the storm, but we're not in the same boat, in the sense that there are those who are doing, relatively fine. They are, bored to tears at home,
Mhm.
cooking a lot, baking a lot, which is fine, spending more time with the kids, but their paychecks not being affected, versus those who basically have dried up. They have to get an unemployment, and that type of situation. Number one. And second thing, as we found out recently, looking at the statistics of the COVID patient in Santa Clara County, it turns out that more than 30% of those who are afflicted with this illness are from Latino or Latino families. So clearly, the effect is different from the different communities, and Latinos seems to be very affected by this illness as well.
Mhm.
So we really could see the 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 fact that we all live in the same community, but the effect is clearly different. And how would you recommend what we could do more to help our Latino brothers and sisters?
I think that one of the things that I'm hearing from my patients, and this is quite alarming,
Yes.
if we have a person that is undocumented,
Mm-hmm.
due to the fear that they're living under of deportation, for example,
Right.
or also public charge, their hesitancy to access services because they're concerned that in processing to become, as they call it, a legal resident, if you access services that would then jeopardize your opportunity to have, as I say, a green card, for example.
Right.
And I'm hearing from patients literally who say, if I have this virus, I am afraid to, even if I need to, I am afraid to go to the hospital
Mhm.
because I don't want to access a service that can then jeopardize my long-term chance to become a legalized citizen
Correct.
or a resident. And to me, that is very alarming and very tragic.
Mhm. Very.
And so one of the things that I think we need to address is that there are programs that do assist
Mhm.
that will not adversely impact the undocumented community.
Right.
And I know that your leadership in that and advocating that the assistance to the community needs to also include the undocumented community.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a very clear policy. We're very fortunate to live in a county of making sure that when we say public health, it is public health to everybody. And we are fortunate to have these policies in place. But of course, even though we have good policies, that doesn't mean everybody gets the same results at the end of the day. And
Mhm.
it's so important to be able to have people feeling the comfort and access. And we need to have language outreach to let people know that they should not have to worry about going to see the doctor if they are sick, regardless whether whatever the status is, or insurance for that matter. And that's one thing good about our public health system in our county, Valley Medical Center, and most recently we have now acquired St. Louis, O'Connor. And we could talk a little bit about that, or experience of how that has helped our South County residents, especially with St. Louis. But at the same time, I think it is so important for our residents to know that there is no fear that they should have when they come to these hospitals, because their privacy is very much protected by our county rules and laws, and that they should feel comfortable and safe living in our community, because that's the only way to make our county stronger, when we have faith for our system.
I have been so impressed with your family. And when I see you and your beautiful wife and your children, they're actively engaged and they love to be in community. And I see that. And I think that being a leader that has, that comes home to children keeps you really rooted. And it raises an awareness of what's happening, because our children are the ones to tell us, well, you know, this is how it was to go to school today, and this is what it was like to go from school to the house. And so I see your family as being such an important part of what you bring to all of us in your leadership, because you fight for them, and in fighting for them, you're helping all of us.
And
So
in so many ways, you know, I think we learn from our children sometimes more than you think that we think, right? Because certainly with a different generation, they get access to different information and technology. I didn't know much about TikTok until my daughter showed me how they have these videos that they're recording with the music.
uh-huh.
Or when I mentioned Facebook, the first thing they says, "Oh yeah, Facebook's for old people."
Yes, and I thought that was hip.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting to really be able to learn from our children, and I think, you know, as we always say, children is our future, and giving them, you know, the right tools, the good morals and good ethics and education is so important. And you know, thank you so much for your great work on the Board of Education for the whole county, for everything you're doing for not just the Latino family, but all our families, clearly, because of the need is definitely there. And
Thank
no,
you.
uh, now, wanted to ask you a little bit about the St. Louis situation, since the county has finally made the bid with the bankruptcy court and was able to purchase the hospitals.
Mhm.
How has that affected the South County in your first hand experience?
Thank you. So initially, as the employees transitioned to county, that was, you know, like all transitions, a time that was challenging, in that there are employees there that had worked there for many, many years, and they had to, in essence, transition to a county system. And there was initially some nervousness. They wondered, well, am I supposed to apply for the job that I've had all these years? Am I going to lose my job? Do I have to take a test so I can demonstrate that I can do the job that I've been doing all these years? Will I keep the same salary? Am I going to have a pay cut? There were these concerns, but I have to say that at this point, those issues have been largely um, resolved. And I think that what will be very key, as always, is to make sure that the voices of the nurses, for example, and the employees are always valued and heard. And because I think that whenever decisions are made, if you're not including the voice of the people that are on the ground working, like our nurses and the, you know, the custodian, the person that cleans the building, and the cafeteria,
Right?
the
Yeah.
food services workers, it's really important that those voices be heard. And when those voices are not heard, then everyone in the community suffers. So I think there were challenges there.
Mhm.
And I know that you have a great commitment to making sure that you're communicating with the frontline people.
Exactly.
And I think that that's a commitment that you and I share, to make sure that we keep those lines of communication open.
Right.
The other thing in terms of St. Louis,
Mhm.
because of the chronic conditions and diseases that we have in South County,
Mhm.
the purchase of these hospitals have added more beds and more resources. And
That's
so
great.
it's been a really good thing for our community,
Mhm.
but it'll be, and it'll continue to be good as long as the employees at St. Louis are treated fairly.
Correct.
And because at the end of the day, if you look at the patient load for a nurse, for
Yeah.
example, right?
Mhm.
That affects all of us.
Of course.
So I think that whatever it is that we do going forward, make sure that the voices of the frontline people are always heard.
Right. So
Yes.
whether it's nurses to patient ratio or teachers to student ratio, it's basically the same. When you load too many students to a teacher, load too many patients to a nurse, the quality of the delivery of service is going to be lessened, and there's certainly more pressure, uh, and you will suffer. And I think it's so important to make sure that the common sense dictates at the end of the day. And I'm very glad to hear that by the purchase of the county, more beds has been increased in St. Louis. That is really great news to hear, especially in light of the COVID time frame. And one thing we're very fortunate living in our county that we see is that despite the deaths and those who have caught the disease, our number per 100,000 of those who are ill, who suffer from COVID, is far significantly less than those in the East Coast, as you could see in New York and New Jersey. And it really does show that the fact that we have closed our facility, the order for stay in place has come out so much earlier than they did, and you could tell the differences. And I'm very fortunate to say that our county is, still at this rate right now. We seem to have, the numbers have already plateaued, and looking at it is that we're not going to have likely to have the situation where we're running out of beds or running out of ventilators, which is exactly what we were worried about a month ago when we saw what happened. And this shows what our county has been able to prepare for a lot of this now. And we're very fortunate to have that good system. And that's one thing I pledge to do, is making sure that our healthcare system is going to be top notch. And making sure that will be properly funded, to make sure the best people will be working there. Like you said, we do have wonderful nurses and doctors and healthcare workers in our front line, and this is really a public safety net that we need to maintain.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that, as we're traveling and we see less cars in the freeway, I think that we need to reevaluate when we go back to work. And I mean, I haven't stopped working, but certainly people who commute, to really consider how much of the work can be done remotely.
Right.
So as to alleviate the traffic congestion that we all suffer from. That's one of the few silver linings, is for anyone who's traveling and then they don't have to deal with as much traffic. And when we come back, to really have a conversation around what can we do so that maybe someone could work from home once or twice a week.
Right.
Because now we are feeling more comfortable with these meetings, virtually meeting with one another, working from home. I would love to have a dialogue when we come back around those practices. How much of your business, how many of your employees could work from home? We'd spend more time with our families. We would alleviate some of that traffic congestion and pollution. I'm hearing that there are parts of the world where in Venice, for example, there are creatures of swimming around and happy, because as we shelter in place, the environment is benefiting. And so I think that I would love to have a conversation so that we don't return to those same practices. And I know you have a lot of feelings about that, because you care deeply for our environment.
Absolutely. There's always that so-called debate of whether climate change is man-made. Well, if you look at the pollution level now in so many parts of the world during this shutdown, basically a worldwide shutdown, which never happened before, including places like China or India. 1.4, 1.3 billion people are not working and being sheltered in place. And we could really see the pollution level and the air quality has really gone much better, or the pollution has gone way, way less. So anybody debating that this is not man-made, they don't understand statistics and science. There's no better way to prove that this truly is something that human activity has caused a lot of those problems that our earth is suffering. And I think we, like you said, we really have to reevaluate the future of how we could do things better, because the way we've been doing is not working. And the way we've been living, we're killing our planets. Thinking that would be the issue is that it will hurt the economy. But I think there are ways that we could move forward in the future. And the thing that when people drive so little, the gas prices, remember the oil price went to negative last week, right? So that shows you that, there are ways that we really can make this work. And a lot of the work that can be done, as you see, like either through Zoom meetings or whether it's through email, there's so much more we actually can do remotely to lessen these unnecessary travel, shall we say. Will be good for everybody in that sense. And the funny thing is, as I said, we are going to more meetings, more Zoom meetings now than ever, just because of the fact that we didn't have to travel. And I do think that I felt that we spend more time at home. And in that sense, I think our family is better, and we get to know what our kids are doing more too. Maybe the kids are a little bit more concerned now that they're always around.
Yes, yes, but thank you. I want to thank you for reaching out. And many that are familiar with your leadership tell me all the time that you pick up the phone and you're always asking what's going on in your community, how can we help, what solutions can we work on together. I'm excited about the work ahead with you on the Board of Supervisors, and thank you so much. After you served our country so honorably, I think you're always looking, what more can I do for all of you? And I just want to thank you so much for that.
Claudia, thank you. Muchísimas gracias para ti for everything you've been doing for all our communities, certainly for your sacrifice of being, on the board, and the amount of time, as we jokingly say, if we don't do this for the money, if we do this for the money, we're really bad on math, right?
Yes, yes.
So, and there's so much need in our community that we could do, and I'm hopeful that I'll have the opportunity to serve our communities. And the thing is, whether you're elected or not, there's so many roles that we could play, especially in this difficult time. And let's work together and survive this tough period. But in the meantime, we need to help each other to get through this, and we will get through this stronger, hopefully.
Thank you, Otto, and I've really enjoyed my time with you today. Thank you for being out.
All right. Have a good one, Claudia. And thank you, everybody, for watching this today. And good to see you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.